Welcome to the Retirement DNA Podcast. I'm Duane Johnson.
And I'm Aaron Johnson.
We believe you deserve financial advice based on your best interest. In our podcast, we're going to discuss all aspects of retirement planning. Today, our topic is how the Duane Johnson Group has started and what it's growing into today. Let me take you back to the year 2000. Now, if you can imagine this, I'm sitting in a hospital room at UCSD waiting for my doctor to return and give me the results of the biopsy that they've done on my kidney. Well, when Dr. Steiner returned, this time he is towing along 2 or 3 other doctors with him. Now, as you can imagine, typically that's not very good news, is it? And it really wasn't. Dr. Steiner looked at me and said, Duane, I'm sorry to inform you, but your kidney transplant is failing. I've brought along the other doctors just to explain to you about dialysis, because we're going to need to start you on dialysis 3 times a week, and it's going to take about 3 hours at a time to do this. Well, as you can imagine, my heart kind of sunk for a minute, and I kind of sat there quietly. And after a minute or two, I kind of looked up at Dr. Steiner and said, when do we get started? Now, the reason I was able to do that is prior to that, 7 years prior to that, when I got the kidney transplant, they told me this day would come, that eventually the kidney would fail. So what do you think I spent the past 7.5 years doing? Putting a plan into place for when this day did come, right? I wanted to make sure I knew what I was going to be doing and how I was going to handle things. So I put together a plan. So what are we doing today? Instead of making a plan for myself, we're putting plans together for folks like yourselves. We're putting retirement plans together. And since the Duane Johnson Group has opened, it's really growing. I've been very blessed in that way. We've added a tax office at this point with an enrolled agent, which is my sister. She's doing the tax office, so we're very blessed there to have her, someone that we can really trust and do the right thing for our clients. We also have George Chant, who's an estate planning attorney who takes care of all the trust and wills and things like that need to be done for estate planning. Now, most recently, I've added my cousin Aaron and started the Bridger Financial Services. And Aaron's going to talk to you a little bit about his background and how this all came about.
Sure. So I started with American Express Financial Advisors in 2003 in Richmond, Virginia. So I've got just over 16 years in the industry. I have my Series 7, 24, 31, 66, along with my life, health, and annuity, and have been able to obtain my Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor certification. And over the years, I've mainly worked in the wirehouse and bank credit union and environment. My cousin, Duane, had been after me to come join him for the past 10 years, but really hadn't been interested in that point, and honestly kind of partially thought he was just joking. I was at a credit union at the time, and just because of the sheer number of people I saw, I didn't like that I was more transactional with clients. I didn't get to spend enough time with them. I didn't get to know them. So I wanted to do more planning. I wanted to get to know them and what their goals were. That's when I decided to start talking with Duane and kind of see what we might be able to put together. One thing led to another. My wife, 4 kids, and I moved out June of last year. Once we got here, the more Duane and I talked about how we wanted things structured, we felt it'd be best to create an additional company for the investment side of the business. So we created Bridger Financial Services. We do get asked all the time where Bridger Financial Services came from, and it comes from the Bridger Mountain Range in Bozeman, Montana, where Duane and I grew up looking at the Bridger Mountains every day. So that's a little bit about my background.
And, I think one way Aaron and I are blessed as well, too. We both grew up with both of our dads running their own business in Montana, so we both kind of came from a background of knowing what entrepreneurship looked like and what being self-employed was like. But, beyond that, let's look at the process that Aaron and I use in our office. We use a 3-appointment process when we sit down and put a plan together for somebody. Really, the first area we're going to look at is income planning. And when we talk about income planning, what are we going to look at? We're going to talk about your Social Security. When's the best time to take the Social Security? How should I take Social Security? Because, Social Security planning becomes a very important part of that planning process. The other thing we really need to know, and one of the biggest things we need to know, what are your monthly expenses? Because really a whole retirement plan is built around what? Your monthly expenses. How are we going to pay these expenses every single month for the rest of our lives. But along with that, we also want to make sure we're including inflation. How is inflation going to affect things over the year? Are we going to make sure we're going to continue to grow with inflation, be able to keep up with inflation? Another part of income planning is a spousal plan. Something happens to one spouse. Is the other spouse going to be okay financially? Are they going to have the income that they're going to need? Another area is the investments.
So during the investment side, what we're going to take a look at is we want to assess the risk that you're currently taking. What's your risk tolerance? We also want to adjust your portfolio to reduce any fees if we can. We want to look at the volatility and put volatility controls into place. We also want to evaluate ways that we can reduce risk while still working toward your goals. And we also want to put in some longevity protection. We want to take as much of the market fluctuations out as we possibly can, with still maintaining your rate of return. We also will look at tax planning. As Duane mentioned, we have a tax office so that we can ask Valerie any questions that we might have, and taxes can be done here in our office. But we want to look at, what are the taxable nature of some of the things that you might be owning? What are some of the possible IRA planning strategies that we can put together? Some of the strategies might include, tax-deferred or tax-free money in the plan. We might look at converting some of those IRA assets into Roth IRA and tax-free assets, but also discussing ways to leverage your qualified money to leave to your heirs.
Now, another thing we look at is insurance-related things. It's funny, in our seminar, we always ask people, do you have long-term care insurance? And probably, 90, 95% of the room, they don't raise their hand. That's understandable. It's expensive. And, are there other things that we can do to do that? And when we ask that, it's kind of funny if you ask people if they have long-term care and you ask them, well, what's your plan? We always get silly answers like, I got a silver bullet. My wife will just push me off the cliff, whatever it may be. But, that is a very important part of your planning process. If, long-term care does come up, how are you going to pay that? And also the legacy planning. Sometimes we'll have someone in their office and we'll ask them, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, is it important to you to leave children money? And if someone says, yeah, absolutely, it's a 10 to us. Well, we might start talking more about life insurance, a legacy type planning policy so that they can do that and know that's going to happen when they're gone.
So that kind of goes into the legacy planning section and making sure that we are leaving your assets to those that you want to receive your money in the fashion that you want them to receive it. And that's why we have George in the office to help prepare for the wills and the trusts, but also for us, for him to be a sounding board for our questions. We want to be able to maximize your estate and income tax planning opportunities and prevent your IRA and qualified accounts from becoming fully taxable to your beneficiaries upon your death. At the Duane Johnson Group and Bridger Financial Services, our main goal is to make sure our clients know that they can make it to and through retirement and can spend with confidence during those years. We want to make sure that they have financial security in any economy. That's all we have for you today.
Now, we'd like to thank you for listening to the Retirement DNA podcast today. Now, if you have any questions or you'd like to sit down with us for an initial consultation to see if you are on track to meet your secure retirement, please give us a call at 951-244-6702. Again, that's 951-244-6702. Now, if you'd like what you've heard today, please subscribe to our biweekly podcast, and please tell your friends and family if you think they would benefit from hearing this information. Also check it out at the DuaneJohnsonGroup.com and BridgerFinancialServices.com. Again, thank you for listening and have a great day.
Investment advisory services offered through Bridger Financial Services, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of California. Insurance products and services are offered through Duane Johnson Group, LLC, affiliated company. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Duane Johnson Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Duane Johnson Group, LLC.